to Loom of dreams. This is a place where stories are woven softly, thread by thread, until they become a blanket of quiet comfort around you. Here we slow down together. We listen, we breathe, and we rest. As you settle into this moment, let your body grow a little heavier, your thoughts a little lighter. The day has done enough. There's nothing left to rush, nothing you need to hold on to, only the gentle rhythm of your breath and the warmth of the evening around you. Before we begin tonight's story, let's take a few moments to settle the body and quiet the mind. If you'd like, close your eyes now. Let the rest of the world fade a little. Notice where you are, the shape of the room, the stillness of the air, the gentle warmth that surrounds you. Now, take a slow breath in through your nose. Feel your chest lift and your belly rise. And then slowly breathe out through your mouth, as if you're blowing warm air onto a window. Let your shoulders drop and feel that breath leave gently, like a sigh. Again, inhale softly, not too deep, just enough to feel the cool air enter. Pause for a moment and exhale slowly. Each time you breathe, imagine the air moving like a wave, in and out, steady and kind. Your body begins to understand this rhythm, the same rhythm as a calm sea at night, the same rhythm as the fire in the hearth. If your mind begins to wander, that's perfectly fine. Just notice it and bring it back to your breath, back to the sound of the fire, back to the quiet in your room. Now feel your body growing heavier, your hands resting loosely, your jaw unclenching, your eyes softening behind closed lids. Let your breath find its own pace. There's nothing you need to do. You are safe, you are home, and you are ready to rest.
Tonight we'll return gently to the same quiet corner of Norway's fjords, where the cliffs rise like silver walls and the snow folds itself over every roof and field. The Christmas light has softened now. The day after brings a hush of its own, the kind that lingers like warmth left in a teacup. Down by the frozen water, a small cottage still glows beneath the winter sky. Inside, the fire hums its patient tune, and a little girl wakes to the silver calm of morning. It's a story about kindness carried from one hearth to another, about journeys made not for distance, but for love, and about the way giving and returning can sometimes feel like the same gentle motion of the tide. So find a comfortable spot. Let your body settle where it's warm. Feel the blanket gather around you like snowlight. Breathe in slowly, the way the fjord breathes beneath its winter lid, and let the quiet shape itself around your thoughts.
Morning light has a silver patience. It slides across the window pane like a quiet visitor and pauses on the curtain as if it needs permission to enter. Ingrid wakes to that soft glow, the kind that belongs only to winter mornings. Not bright, not dim, but calm, as if the world has agreed to whisper for a while. She blinks once, listening. Somewhere in the house the kettle hums faintly. The fire gives a tiny pop, a reminder that warmth is still alive. She slips from under the quilt. Her toes find the floorboard that creaks in the same note every morning. She likes that sound. It feels like a small greeting between old friends. In the next room, Bestamore is already awake. Her hair gathered into a loose bun, a shawl draped around her shoulders like soft wings. Steam rises from her cup of tea, drawing invisible lines in the air. "Good morning, little one," she says, her voice threaded with warmth. "Your father's outside already. He wants to test the sled before the snow thickens." Ingrid rubs her eyes and looks at the table. On it lie small packages wrapped in brown paper, each tied with twine and a bit of pine. The smell of sap and bread hangs in the room. "These are for Uncle Arvid's family. Bread from our oven, jam from our summer berries, and something extra from you." She gestures toward a small box. Ingrid opens it carefully. Inside lies a wooden reindeer, the size of her palm, carved smooth by her father, painted by her own hand. Its eyes are calm and patient. Its antlers curve like quiet music. She touches it gently, feeling the grain of the wood. "For Leif," she says softly. "He loves animals." "Then he'll hear this one breathe." She smiles. "Your father says every carving keeps a bit of the forest inside." The clock ticks in the corner, measured and kind. Ingrid helps lay the table, 2 slices of warm bread, a small dish of butter, and a jar of red jam that glows when the light finds it. They eat in the easy silence of morning. The butter softens under the knife. The jam tastes faintly of sun and long days that seem far away now. Through the window, the sky begins to brighten, a pale watercolor of pearl and gray blue. Snowflakes drift lazily, each one turning like a thought before it lands. From outside comes the steady rhythm of a shovel against the path. Her father's voice hums low, a tune with no words, but full of comfort. Ingrid bundles into her coat. The wool smells faintly of pine smoke and soap. When she opens the door, the air greets her with a hush of cold and light. The fjord below is still half asleep, its surface glassy with ice near the edges. Even the wind seems to walk softly this morning. Her father stands by the sled, tightening the ropes. "Perfect timing," he says with a grin. "See, the snow waited for us." He places the wrapped parcels carefully inside, then covers them with a thick blanket. "Gifts from the hilltop," he says. "Let's carry our warmth across the fjord." "Will it be far?" "Far enough for the day to tell a story," he replies. She nods, tucks her mittens tight, and steps beside him. Behind them, the cottage glows faintly, smoke curling from the chimney like a farewell wave. They start down the trail. Each step makes a sound like soft applause from the snow. The sled glides smoothly, leaving 2 silver lines behind. And above them, the sky opens quietly, a ceiling of pale blue that promises nothing but peace. The path bends through a row of tall firs. Their branches hang heavy with frost, glistening like strings of pearls when the light shifts. Every so often, a clump of snow lets go and falls in slow motion, a small cloud that lands with a sigh. The forest is alive but gentle. Somewhere far off, a woodpecker knocks, steady and distant, like someone tapping softly on the edge of the day. The sled's runners make a whispering sound, half song, half rhythm. Her father hums along, a tune he might have learned from the sea. For a while they walk in companionable quiet. Ingrid watches her breath rise in pale threads, each one vanishing into the air as soon as it's made. The world feels suspended, no past, no hurry, only this white road between trees. "Do you remember," her father says at last, "when the fjord froze so thick we could cross it?" She shakes her head. "I was too little." "Then I must tell you again." He smiles. "The ice was clear as glass. You could see stones and fish beneath, sleeping under a sky made of snow. We tied blades to our boots and glided all the way to the opposite shore. The wind sang around us. It sounded like laughter you could almost catch." Ingrid imagines it, the wide fjord, the sky folded over it like a white blanket, and her father skating across, leaving lines of silver behind him. "Were you afraid it might crack?" He nods, "Always. But that's how you learn to listen. Ice will tell you what it can hold." The forest opens briefly into a clearing. Sunlight spills across the snow, scattering into tiny mirrors. Each crystal reflects a piece of the morning. They pause to rest. Ingrid crouches to study animal tracks, a fox perhaps, or a hare. The prints weave between the trees, then vanish into the hill shadow. She feels the stillness press around her, not heavy, but deep, the kind that listens back. When they continue, a robin flits from branch to branch ahead of them, its chest glowing bright against the pale world. Her father lifts his chin. See, that means we're watched over. By the time they reach the ridge, the sky has softened into a blue that looks like it could melt. Below them, the fjord stretches silent and wide, its frozen edges marked by the faint lace of tide. From the opposite shore, smoke drifts up from small chimneys, each one a tiny promise of warmth. Ingrid sits on a flat rock, her mittens pressed to her face to catch her breath. The air tastes pure and sweet. When she exhales, her breath forms clouds that dance and fade. Best Moore's words return to her, gifts from the hearth. She pictures the packages beneath the blanket, the bread still fragrant, the jam sealed tight, the mittens waiting to warm new hands. It feels like they're carrying pieces of home itself. A hush falls as they start the descent. The hill is steep but kind. Each curve feels like part of a story being told slowly. The sled slides with a whisper, snow spraying in small sparkles beside them. Ingrid laughs, a sound that seems to surprise even the forest. It echoes briefly, then settles among the branches like a memory choosing a place to rest. At the bottom of the hill, the trees part and a house appears, larger than theirs, painted deep red, its windows glowing as if the fire inside has been waiting for them. Smoke curls gently from the chimney. The porch is strung with dried orange slices that catch the light like tiny suns. A wooden star hangs from the eaves, spinning slightly in the wind.
"That's it," her father says softly. "Your uncle's home. See the star? He made that when we were boys." They pull the sled to the steps. Before Ingrid can lift her mitten to knock, the door opens and warmth rushes out in a wave. Her aunt stands there, flour on her hands, apron dusted with sugar. Her cheeks bloom like roses from the heat. "Well, if it isn't my little mountain visitors," she exclaims. Come in, before you turn into snow yourselves." Inside, the air is alive with scent. Fresh bread, stew simmering, pine needles and orange peel drying near the window. Leif and Solveig sit at the table, stringing popcorn garlands. When they see Ingrid, their faces light up like candles. "Ingrid!" they cry, and hurry over, nearly spilling their bowl of cranberries. She laughs as they hug her, their wool sleeves prickly but warm. For a moment she can't tell if her heart is racing from joy or the cold retreating. Her uncle appears from the back room, wiping his hands on a towel. He and her father clasp shoulders, and the air fills with the easy sound of old laughter. Snow slides from their coats, melting into bright drops on the wooden floor. Ingrid unpacks the sled's treasures carefully, one parcel at a time. Bread wrapped in linen, a jar of jam glowing red in the light, a pair of mittens folded neatly, and at last the small box. "For Leif," she says shyly. He opens it, and his eyes widen. The wooden reindeer rests in his hand, its smooth surface catching the firelight. "It's beautiful," he whispers. "It looks like it's thinking." Her uncle bends to see it closer. "Your father still carves the way our grandfather did. He listens to the wood." He disappears for a moment, then returns holding something wrapped in cloth. Inside is a wooden bird, its wings slightly open, as if caught in the act of taking flight. "This one," her uncle says, "was waiting for the right pair. Now your reindeer has a companion." Ingrid's eyes widen. She holds the bird gently, and it feels almost warm, as though it recognizes her hands. Her aunt unwraps the bread, breathing in the crust's golden scent. "Oh, this will be perfect for supper. And these mittens, I can see your grandmother's care in every stitch." They set the table together, bowls, spoons, slices of butter curling on a plate. The air hums with quiet joy. From the stove, the stew releases a sigh. Fish, herbs, and carrots mingling into one gentle perfume. Leif lifts the lid, his face glowing in the steam. "Dinner's ready," he announces solemnly, and everyone laughs. Outside, snow begins again. Fat flakes, lazy and soft, drifting through the dimming light. Through the window, the fjord reflects the last of the day's blue, like glass holding a dream. Ingrid helps hang her coat near the fire. The wet wool steams gently, and her cheeks still tingle from the cold. She looks around the room, at her aunt's careful hand stirring the pot, at her cousins threading the last bits of garland, at her father's quiet smile as he warms his palms by the flame. The air feels full but peaceful, as if everyone has spoken the same unspoken word: home. Later, as dusk deepens, candles are lit. The flames tremble slightly, mirroring the snow outside. Leif places the wooden reindeer beside the bird on the windowsill. Together, they look out at the darkening fjord, two small guardians watching the night begin. Ingrid stands beside him. She feels the warmth of the room at her back and the stillness of the snow before her. The gifts have found their place, and something in her heart, quiet and glowing and wordless, tells her that she has too. Evening leans gently toward the windows. The snow outside slows its breathing, and the last of the day settles into the familiar shape of lamplight. On the table, the bowls wait like small white ponds. Steam lifts from the pot and curls, and the room gathers closer around the scent. They sit without ceremony, her aunt, her uncle, Leif and Solveig, Ingrid and her father, as though the meal had been waiting for their voices to arrive. "Warm your hands first," her aunt murmurs, sliding a plate of bread toward the middle. Butter softens just by being near the fire. A ladle moves through the stew, slow and assured. fish that has given itself to comfort, carrot coins that hold a little sunlight, and a ribbon of dill that reminds everyone of summer fields that know how to be green even when snow is honest about the season. The first spoonful is quiet, not because there is nothing to say, but because gratitude sometimes prefers silence to be its language. Leif breaks the bread and passes pieces down the line, his face as serious as a sailor guiding a lantern along a dark dock. Solveig tucks a slice under her bowl to keep it warm, a trick her aunt taught her last winter. The talk that follows is the ordinary kind, sweet as honey in tea. Did the path hold? Yes, it spoke in soft creaks and let us pass. Was the wind kind? It remembered our names. Did the robin come? He led us to your door. Her uncle laughs the way a sturdy house laughs, from the beams and the floorboards all at once. A robin is a proper guest, he says. He eats little and brings luck. The gifts wait on the sideboard beneath the window. The wooden bird and reindeer stand companionably shoulder to shoulder, looking out at the fjord like two friends who always agree that the far shore is beautiful, even when the far shore is a dream behind snowfall. When the bowls are empty of stew and full of warmth, her aunt brings out a small pan from the oven, 4 baked apples, their skins loosened into a deep shine, a little ruby juice resting at the edge where sweetness has found its way into its own company. She tucks a spoon into the pan and watches the steam bloom. Cinnamon, she says softly, as if the word itself might warm the room another degree. They eat slowly. The apples are patience disguised as fruit. The juice tastes like a story that took its time and is better for it. After the apples, her uncle lights 2 more candles. The flames lift like small, brave thoughts. He clears his throat and nods toward the sideboard. We have something for you as well, he says, from our hearth to yours. He lifts a folded cloth. Inside are 4 little parcels, each wrapped in paper that has learned how to be soft around corners. He tells the children to open them in turn, but grown-ups are allowed to feel like children when paper is folded this way. Ingrid unties her string, and inside, a simple sketchbook, thick paper with a deckled edge, and a small tin of 3 colored sticks, charcoal, blue, and a soft brown. Her uncle says, "Our winter has many colors. Sometimes you need only 3 to hear them." Leif receives a small compass with a clear cover, the needle steady as a heart that knows what it loves. Her uncle says, "A sailor should always know where home is," and the boy nods as if this were a lesson and the blessing both.
Solveig finds a spool of cotton thread and a tiny tin of beads, blue as evening, white as frost. "For your garlands," her aunt says, "for stitching stars where you want them." For her father, a pouch of sanded driftwood slivers, pale and smooth, wood that has learned the fjord's language and is willing to be told another story. Her father holds them like small secrets. They will say what they want to become, he whispers, and the fire seems to nod. There is one more parcel. Her uncle weighs it in his hand. This one is for your bestemor, he says. A jar of cloudberry jam from the bog beyond our field, and a tin of tea we brought back from the trading boat before the freeze. Tell her the tea is meant for evenings when knitting and stories agree to share a chair. Ingrid smiles, imagining the way the jam will glow on their table, how the tea will rise in slender letters of steam, spelling the word rest. They sit for a while longer, not talking about the big things, storms at sea, the price of nets, the shape of luck, but about the fine grain of the day, how the bread rose so well it surprised even the bowl, how the wind chime on the porch learned a new note overnight, how the robin looked like a berry that remembered it was a bird. Her aunt clears the table with a hum that sounds like warm wool. The children carry the bowls as if they are carrying the last light of afternoon. The candles work at their patient craft of making time feel kind. When the dishes are dry and the cloth is folded, her uncle lifts the latch on the window a finger's width. Cold air touches the room and tastes the cinnamon. He says, I like to let night in gently. It behaves better when you welcome it. Outside, the snow agrees in large, slow flakes. Inside, the air becomes a little more awake. The candles do not mind. They are experts at being themselves. When it is time to leave, the house does not hurry them. Houses in winter understand partings. They know that the door opens twice, once to let you in and once to carry warmth onward. Her aunt tucks a wedge of bread into a cloth and slips it into Ingrid's pocket. For the ridge, she whispers, as if the ridge itself might be listening for its name. Solveig loops a popcorn and cranberry garland around Ingrid's scarf. A necklace for the path, she says, and Ingrid laughs, feeling suddenly brave in a small, crunchy way. Leif places the compass in his own pocket, then looks at the reindeer on the sill. I'll tell him where you go, he promises. He already knows, Ingrid answers, and for a moment both children look very solemn, as if they have just heard the fjords eke. The door opens. Night has come in blue and silver. The world is not dark, only folded. Snow receives them politely. Somewhere a bell counts the hour, and a dog barks twice at a distance, polite enough to be called friendliness. They step down the path, her father taking the sled rope, Ingrid walking beside him. Behind them, the window glows like a safe harbor lamp. The first stretch is easy. The snow here has learned their boot prints by heart.
The sled glides as if it remembered its own journey. They pass the wind chime on the porch. It notes the direction of the evening with 3 small glassy sounds. The star under the eaves turns once and then holds still, as if agreeing to keep watch.
The trees accept them one by one. They do not crowd or whisper. They simply stand, holding the sky a little higher so the moon can see. Tonight the moon is shy, a thin bowl of light set on its side, ready to catch anything that falls softly. "Do you see that?" her father asks at the edge of the clearing. He points toward the ice near the far shore where the snow has not yet found a way to stay. A single dark lane glints faintly, like ink laid down on glass. "The tide still moves under the lid," he says. "It never stops breathing, even when the whole world thinks it sleeps." They walk without rush. The ridge asks for small steps and careful talk. Bestamore's wedge of bread is sweet in Ingrid's mittened hand. She breaks it and shares with her father. It tastes like home, walking home. The air has changed its music. Earlier it was winter's daylight song, crisp and bright, sung into the corners of rooms. Now it is the dusky hymn of evening, lower and slower, with a note that feels like the inside of a shell held to the ear. Ingrid listens and thinks of the gifts. Jam moving from one shelf to another, wood becoming reindeer, a compass telling a boy what he already knows, thread waiting to stitch stars onto empty spaces. She realizes that gifts do not only travel in paper, they travel in the way people look at one another when the soup is warm and the door is open. At the bend where the birches hold up the sky like pale ladders, the robin appears again. For a moment it is only a round red certainty on a grey branch. Then it lifts, flies ahead, and lands on the low rail of a fence half buried in snow. "Still watching," her father says. "Some guides have very small wings." The climb grows steeper. Their breaths puff in quiet urgency. The sled is heavier now with parcels for home, the cloudberry jam, the pouch of driftwood slivers, and the folded cloth that remembers the smell of her aunt's kitchen. But weight does not always mean burden. Sometimes it means blessing with edges. Halfway up, they rest on a familiar stone. From here, the fjord lies in its evening clothes, blue under blue, a pearl of light here and there where windows say, "We are here, we are here." "Do you miss the sea when you are not on it?" Ingrid asks. Her father tilts his head as if listening to a wave he can hear, but she cannot. "I miss its questions," he says. "It always asks, 'Where are you going?' And I always answer, 'Home.' I think it likes that answer best."
A thin wind pages through the trees. The sound is gentle as a librarian's hand turning to a familiar chapter. The Reg, Ingrid whispers, as if the word itself might make the hill shorter. The compass in Leif's pocket will point north, but the pull in her chest points upward toward the lamp that Bestamore will be lighting now. They rise and walk again. Snow squeaks under their boots, the particular sound it makes when the night turns colder by a careful degree. The sled's runners scratch a brighter note as they find the older ice beneath the drift. At the last turn, their cottage reveals itself the way good news does, not with fanfare, but with certainty. A square of window, the shift of a curtain, a small figure at the glass. Bestamore, Ingrid says, and the word lifts out of her like steam from a warm mug.
The gate clicks. The porch steps accept their weight. The door opens, and the house breathes in its travelers. Warmth closes around them, not a blanket that hides, but a room that recognizes. The fire wakes a little, placing new light along the floorboards, as if underlining a sentence it has always loved. Bestamore meets them with a smile that has winter's wisdom in it. You walked in the right weather, she says. Snow that understands feet, wind that keeps its hands to itself. She takes the parcel for her, the tea and the cloudberry jam, and holds it to her like a cat that knows where to sit. Your aunt has a way with berries, she says. Cloudberries remember the sun more fiercely than most. Coats are hung where the heat can learn them again. Mittens are arranged like small sleeping animals on the chair back. The sled rests, its runners drawing a thin silver smile on the boards. They set the gifts on the table, the pouch of driftwood slivers, the spool of thread and the tin of beads, the sketchbook with a deckled edge that looks like the shore where tide meets paper. Ingrid runs her fingers along the sketchbook's pages. They feel like snow that decided to be warm. She opens to the first leaf and holds the charcoal. Her hand does not hurry. Lines appear the way paths appear under careful steps. A slope, a window, a lamplight square on the snow, a robin like a small punctuation mark in the white. Her father opens the pouch of driftwood and arranges the pieces by shape. Some curl like waves that learn to be still. Some are straight as oar handles. He touches one, then another, and nods, as if hearing a choir made of single notes deciding who will sing the melody. Bestamore sets water to boil. The kettle's thin whistle arrives like a polite visitor. She chooses 2 cups with hairline cracks that know how to hold anyway. Tea leaves spin in the water, unfurling their story without haste. The scent is round and soft, with a quiet brightness that suggests distant hills. They share the wedge of bread her aunt packed, now warmed at the edge of the hearth. Butter melts into little gold islands. The knife that cuts the bread makes a note like a door softly agreeing to open. Later,
Ingrid carries the wooden bird to her room. On the sill, beside last night's reindeer, she makes a place for it. A nest of folded cloth, a smooth beach stone to keep it company, a single blue bead that somehow rolled away from the tin and decided to be moonlight. Through the window, the fjord is more feeling than picture. The lights across the water are few and kind. Above them, the sky lays its palm on the world and says, "Hush now." She thinks of Leif and Solveig, of her aunt's steady hands and her uncle's laugh that knows the shape of beams and boats, of the robin's brief red certainty, of the compass needle resting after a long day of pointing at a truth that needed pointing at anyway. She whispers, "Thank you for traveling with me, to no one and to everything." The bird and the reindeer look outward and do not argue. Back in the main room, her father fits one driftwood sliver against another, testing the patience of angles. Bestemor knits 3 rows, and then 2 more, pausing now and then to listen to the fire. The house keeps its friendly watch. When it is time for bed, lamps are turned low. The walls learn to glow from memory. The clock loosens its voice to a hum. Snow slides from the eaves with the sound of a blanket being convinced it can rest lower.
Ingrid slips beneath her quilt. The fabric remembers soap and cinnamon and the road's cool breath. Her hands find the warm hollow where sleep likes to wait. On the sill, the bird and the reindeer wear 2 small crowns of reflected firelight before the last ember decides to be red without flame. She thinks just once more of the exchange of gifts, bread for stories, wood for hands, thread for stars, tea for a chair where 2 people will sit and agree that silence can speak. She breathes in the way of the fjord at night, deep and slow, with a pause that belongs to the tide. The house hears this and settles 1 gentle inch deeper on its stones. In the last moments, the world arranges itself into the old friendly order. Wind that chooses a quieter door. Snow that writes over the path to keep it clean for morning. Sea that moves beneath its winter lid, keeping the heartbeat steady for the shore that sleeps and the lights that watch. The story folds itself like bread under cloth. Warmth stays. Time becomes kind. Somewhere a robin tucks its head under its wing and believes in the next day. The fjord listens. The hillside listens. The house listens most of all. And in that listening, everything that was given finds a home, and everything that came home becomes a gift. Good night.